Welcome to Talkin Tobacco. I am your host, Bill, and joining me today is my good buddy, Jay Blanchard. What's up, Jay?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, buddy. I appreciate you stopping by. Today, we are kind of going to do a little bit of episode like we did with Edward G. Robinson. And we're doing a movie, and we're doing two mystery tobaccos. I don't know what Jay's smoking yet. He has not told me. He doesn't know what I'm smoking yet. We'll get into that in a minute. The movie that we picked was John Wayne's The Quiet Man, The Duke. One of my favorite all-time movies, man. Have you seen it before, Jay?
So, the short answer is yes, but the long answer is my dad made me watch it when I was a kid. So, and he had a history of trying to make me watch things before I was mature enough to even understand what it was. So I remember watching it as a kid. I remember thinking John Wayne, why isn't he shooting somebody? You know, because I'd only ever seen Westerns up until that point. And then, you know, I remember, you know, my dad talking about merino hair in it. And so, yes, I remember the movie, but I hadn't actually watched the movie until you and I decided to do this. And believe it or not, man, I've watched it twice.
Okay.
I watched it back to back. And it's a great movie. I love it.
Dude, it's a great
everything
movie.
about it I love. Yeah.
You know, it's a great movie. And what's funny was when we were texting last week about a movie, and we're like, let's pick an old movie and get some tobacco going again. We had fun with that. There's no way we can match up Edward G. Robinson blend with a movie like we did with that. You know what I mean? Because there's just no. But I do have a theme here, which I think I did okay with. I'm curious to see yours. But man, that movie, what's funny was when you text me about the movie, I'm like, I mean, I love the movie, but I'm like, I think everybody's already saw that movie. Not that we're, trying to be movie reviewers or anything, but I was like, yeah, does anybody want to hear us talk about The Quiet Man? I'm like, and to hear that you really didn't remember it, maybe there's a lot of guys out there who don't remember it. And I'm sure there's some younger guys who haven't seen it, because believe it or not, I was looking at some stats for this podcast,
Yeah.
And we have listeners in a younger age bracket than I would have ever imagined.
Well, then let's give them let's throw them a little cookie right now and say, listen, Google the Quiet Man and are talking to your remote and try to get it to come on your TV, and just pay the $3.99 to rent it. You cheaper, because you're gonna love it, and some of it is going to be. I kept expecting there to be. Because you watch some of these old movies and you're like, some of them are kind of cringeworthy because what flew back then. This was made in I think it was 1952, was it? Something along those lines, and what used to fly then doesn't fly now, But this movie holds up remarkably well. And I'll say this: there's a couple of unsolicited kisses that John Wayne plants on Merino hair, and he doesn't ask first. He just grabs a hold of her and just pulls her in and just plants one right on her, and then she steps back and she slaps him a few times, and then she'll go, and then as she's about to walk away, she'll grab a hold of him and give him a kiss. So it's like they're balancing out. They're like, how dare you kiss me? And then she kisses him right back. So
what's funny about that scene is because you're obviously we're looking at and hearing about a lot of stuff that's going on today, which we really can't stand, and that's perfect example of why we're pipe smokers, because it's like a time machine back to a time where we'd rather be. But
to you young people out there, let me tell you something. Watch this movie. It's going to make you want to do three things. It's going to make you want to drink Guinness. It's going to make you want to smoke a pipe or cigarettes, because the Duke's always smoking a cigarette in this, and it's going to make you want to chase redheads. It's the hat trick of guy pursuits.
Yeah, but I did. It's so funny. I was watching some behind the scenes of the movie, and she apparently broke her hand on that slap.
Oh, really?
Yeah, broke a bone in her hand. and really should have had a cast on it the rest of the movie, but she sucked it up and was like, we can't put a cast on it.
How great was Marino? She outlived them all. She outlived
was
everybody
great,
in
man.
that. Yeah. I got to tell you, to this day, I have a thing for redheads, and I think it may have been psychologically implanted upon me when my dad made me watch that movie, probably when I was 7 years old. So.
I don't blame you. But getting back to that, like where he grabs her and like plants one on her, and it seems like crazy now. But what's funny is they kind of indicate in the movie, the whole point of the movie is she wants him to kind of be a manly man. That's the whole point of it, right? I mean, that's the whole back theme is you need to stand up to my brother. You need to take charge. And she was looking for a guy to grab her and give her, plant one on her. And like that was part of the whole theme. But we'll get into that. We're going to give like a whole synopsis of the movie. So just in case there's anybody who hasn't seen it, we're going to go over it from the start. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we're smoking today. Because I have no idea what you're smoking. And I'm curious as to how you came about choosing it. Did you just choose it? Did you think of it as a theme? Did you try to put some thought to try to kind of combine it with the movie, since we had the Edward G. Robinson tobacco with one of his movies called The Stranger? How did you do it?
So I enjoyed the movie so much that I actually cheated and I picked 2 tobaccos. I smoked, I started out, I just wanted to, you had got me on a Peretti kick with the last time you and I talked. So I had gotten a light English blend called Prince of Wales from Peretti, and I smoked it at the start of the movie, and I was just enjoyed it. It was delicious. There was some Latakia in it, so it's got that Englishy taste to it, but it's not a real strong English. It's kind of like
it's like a light English.
Yeah, it's a light English, and it was delicious. But it was Prince of Wales. And I'm watching an Irish movie, so I was like, nah, I'm going to... So then my next one was I smoked Ashton's Winding Road, and it's a Virginia, golden and dark Virginia with a splash of black Cavendish in it, and it was better for the movie, in my opinion. I sat there for the... I smoked the first one so fast because I was getting into it. You know how sometimes you could smoke a bowl quick. So sure. The first tobacco I smoked through fairly quickly, and then the second one, I took my time, and for the second half of the movie, it was Winding Road the whole time. So
okay, all right. So Winding Road, I could picture like the scenes from the movie, the old cobblestone roads, and they're definitely winding. So yeah. I'll say that there's some connection, some correlation there.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Yeah. How about you? What'd you pick?
I was trying to pick, obviously the first thing I'm thinking about is like Ireland, right? So I'm trying to think of like an Irish tobacco. Like what do I have in my cellar that I haven't touched in a while and that may be something have to do with Ireland? So immediately I started thinking of Peterson and Peterson's blends. So I do have a bunch of Peterson blends, but they're actually old Dunhill blends that they acquired when Dunhill went out. So I felt like, let me try to keep thinking about it. Because I have, Peterson Nightcap. I have Peterson Deluxe Navy Rolls. I have Peterson Elizabethan. I have Peterson Flake. So I was like, I can't. If I had Peterson Irish Flake, that would have been the one I went to.
Perfect.
But so I'm trying to think. So I'm like, all right, well, it has to be in English. Let me think. I'm trying to like get like geographically nearby. So I thought of Samuel Gawith, since they're in northwest England, and they're right there. Like they're pretty close to Ireland. It's right across the Irish Sea. It's like right at the tip. It's like right there, and they probably share some characteristics with the tobacco growth. So. Yes, this is me overthinking this because this is the shit that we do on this podcast. We think about tobacco and we bring it to you, right? So yeah, it's embarrassing, and I'm a little embarrassed, and this is what I was doing this week. So, so I picked a Sam Gawith blend, and I wanted it to have a lot of key. I wanted it to be like an English style, and I picked a blend that I have not heard of much. as far as in the way of as reviews on YouTube. There's a few on there, but there's not much. And I guess Smoking Pipes had Samuel Gawith drop a couple years ago, and I just started buying blends. I was just like, give me this one, because I wanted to try them. And this one's called Perfection. And guess what? It's perfect. No, I'm just kidding. So it's it's an English blend, Virginia Latakia Oriental, with it's supposed to have a vanilla topping, like an obvious vanilla topping. It's not an aromatic, but it's supposed to have this vanilla topping. So when I did smoke it the other day, and there's no vanilla topping because the tin is from 2021. So it's got like 3 years on it, and I never opened it. So it was like a week ago, and I'm like, let me check out this. Opened it up, and yeah, there's no vanilla topping. I was like, holy moly! But this is the perfect tobacco to smoke today, because, and I'll get into this a little later. I couldn't make this even a full review. Like when I do my solo podcast and I review a tobacco, there's not even enough to talk about, and I'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, let's light these up. Are you not smoking right now? You can't smoke, can you?
Oh yeah, I can. Absolutely. So I smoked my Winding Road in my Peterson pipe. So
well, that's funny. What pipe? Let's talk about that. What pipe are you smoking?
I'm smoking a Peterson Kildare, an old Peterson Kildare. I bought it from my pipe making friend, Mark Domain. He restored a bunch of Peterson pipes. And I said, I've never had a Peterson pipe. And he just tossed it to me and said, Merry Christmas. So I'm smoking it on my Peterson pipe.
Oh, let me say it. It looks like a bent bulldog.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
All right, cool. I'm also smoking a Peterson pipe. I haven't smoked this in so long. It's a Peterson 302, so it's kind of like a bent apple. It's almost like a chin hanger, and it's a system pipe. It's their system pipe. Have you heard of these?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. They've got that cooling chamber in it. That's it's patented. I believe it's patented. Yes.
Yeah, it is. So, like, for the younger guys who haven't heard of what a system pipe is, if you smoke and you produce a lot of there's a lot of moisture in your bowl, and you work up a lot of saliva in your mouth, because sometimes when I'm smoking, the flavors are so good, my mouth gets a little too juicy. So this system pipe, the way it's designed is there's an extra chamber at the bottom of this pipe. So when you're smoking, if any moisture goes down the shank, down the stem and into the shank, instead of going into the bowl where the tobacco is, it'll drop off early into this second chamber and capture all that moisture. So this was one of my first, premium briars that I bought. I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. I haven't smoked it in a while because it's I kind of dedicated it to English blends, and I haven't really been smoking English blends, but here we are today, and smoking an English blend and talking about the Quiet Man, so it's perfect. I'm firing this up, buddy.
Go ahead. I'm loading up. I'm going to go ahead and load up the Prince of Wales again, so in solidarity with you. So I had a runner-up tobacco, if you want to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
The runner-up tobacco was just strictly on name. It didn't have anything to do with the movie, but the name of the name of the tobacco, it's called The Gentleman Caller. And it's by Cornell and Deal. And the interesting thing about it is when you open it up, as soon as you smell it, there's just a smell that you're not used to. I wasn't familiar with it. It kind of knocked me back a little bit. It's like, what is this? It's deer tongue. So it's got deer tongue in it, and it smells almost like it's a really kind of a heavy aromatic, but it's not. It doesn't have a top coat on it. It's actually just that deer tongue itself.
What's the deer? I never had a deer tongue blend. So what's it taste like? What would you compare it to?
Well, I would compare it. It's more of a smell for me. It's like eating a piece of chocolate almost. You recognize it as soon as you. It's vanilla-y. It's sweet. It smells like, you get a little bit of a cherry note to it. You get a little bit of plum. It's just an unusual. I mean, once you smell, there's really nothing quite like it. And it tastes pleasant, and it leaves a pleasant flavor on your palate. And when you're breathing in, you're still getting some of the deer tongue notes after you've finished it. So it's something. It's really an interesting blend. It's got this old codger on the front of it, and he's ringing the doorbell. Looks like he's coming home. So this was really close, but I was like, there's no way the Duke looks like this guy. But when we get into the movie, I want to talk about my favorite character in the film. So but let me light this up first.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're going to do that next. So what we're going to do is I want you, once you get your pipe lit, this is kind of hard to talk and smoke my pipe, but I'm going to give, usually when I do the podcast, I'm not smoking. So I'll try to edit as much dead air as possible, but this is a technique I have not perfected just yet. Did you ever smoke a P-lip pipe?
Yeah, that's it. This is the only one I have, and it.
Oh wait, that's it. You're smoking a P-lip too?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, this is P-lip. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
it's different. It gives your tongue a break because it pushes that smoke up to the roof of your mouth instead of a traditional fishtail.
You really get it up in your nostrils. I mean, I can really smell. I can, I would recommend it if you like aromatics. I would certainly recommend it for that too. But even with the English, it's a nice. It gives you that the Latakia gives you a nice, I guess, smell in your head.
Some guys hate it. Some guys absolutely hate P-lips, and I don't get it. It's like, what's the big deal? I mean, I get it. You have your favorite, but like, maybe it's not every day. But how do you hate it? It's just something different.
I don't know the word. I think people throw that word around too frequently. Yeah, okay. They throw hate and they throw genius around kind of willy-nilly these days. If everybody they thought was a genius, this world would be a better place, and hate.
Since you're the Academy Award winning actor in this podcast, from your amazing performance in what's that chooch's name?
What, Kevin
Spacey? And that's Kevin Spacey motion picture, The Life of David Gale, where you played cop number 7.
Right, and you can see the back of my head and my butt in that film. So,
what I wanted to ask you,
ladies get in line.
What I wanted to ask you was this, though. Seriously, if I was in a movie, I would know the answer to this question, and I have a feeling you don't know the answer, but you should. Okay, you ready?
Give it to me. Yeah.
What's the minute mark where you enter the frame in this movie? If I got to go back to the basement and pull out my VHS tape. Where is the minute mark of Life of David Gale where Jay Blanchard makes his appearance?
I don't know the minute mark, but I do know the scene. I know the scene. It's the scene where they're dragging all the crap out of the crazy person's house, and all the cops are they're setting up. And my job was to be at the back of the squad car setting up this grid that we were going to start searching so that we could find this guy. This crazy person. So I don't know.
First half of the movie, second half of the movie.
I'd say it's right smack dab in the middle of the movie.
Right in the middle.
It's moving towards the climax.
I would know the minute mark, Jay. If it were me, I'd be like, just fast forward to the 58.37 minute mark.
Well, I could go back and watch it. I've only seen that movie actually once. So when we were, when you make movies and there's a feeling and it's in any production. It's not just movies, it's plays, it's whatever you're doing. There's a feeling of right track, wrong track, and it permeates the whole staff. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't know. The movie didn't. I mean, it had a stellar cast. It had big actors. It had a great director, Academy Award-winning director Alan Parker, but it just didn't do well. And I don't know. I mean, the material itself, I don't know. For whatever reason, the audience didn't like that movie as well as they had all the other actors' movies that they had made. So, and it kind of permeated through the set. I could tell you, even when we were making it, people were like, "What's this thing about?" It's about the death penalty, and these people are they basically fake their own, they're faking a murder so that way he can get sentenced to death to prove that the death penalty makes mistakes. And it was just like, really? That's it? All right.
Yeah, so it has like this political message.
Yeah, and it just didn't resonate. It didn't resonate. Yeah. And it didn't do well. So
I gotcha.
But
you were stellar, I have to say.
Nobody points at a map like I do, Bill. Nobody.
You could be a hand model, maybe. Send that clip around.
Yeah.
All right, Quiet Man, Jay. Do you want to give this synopsis since you're the movie star here?
Absolutely. So, The Quiet Man is about a boxer who retired. He's born in Ireland, and he retires from the boxing ring after.
I thought he was born in America. Was he not? Isn't he American?
No, he was born in this house in Innisfree in Ireland. And he remembers his mother telling him all these stories about Innisfree as he's staying in this slag heap that is surrounding the steel mills that he works in, and he becomes a boxer. So after he retires from the ring and his mother has passed on, he wants to go back to Innisfree and buy the house that he was born in. So that's the setup. So you got John Wayne, who comes back from America to the town that he was born in, and as soon as he's getting off the train, he's like, well, which way is it to Innisfree? And of course, all the Irishmen are like, well, do you see that road there? Well, you don't want to be taking that road. You want to take this road over here, So it's like, and then they're giving him the runaround, and he can't get a straight answer. And then this one lady who's like well-meaning says, oh, I've got a niece, and my niece would like to show you the way to Innisfree. And he's like, well, now you're talking. And she's like, oh, but she's not here. So it's like, what's the point of this whole thing? What's the point of the story? And then he ends up meeting the character who, in my opinion, steals the whole show. He meets this character that's driving this car. His name's McLean, and he takes him to Innisfree, and then that's the setup for how John Wayne gets. He's
like a taxi guy, right? Like driving the horse and buggy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's hilarious in that movie, by the way.
Oh, he steals the whole movie, in my opinion.
He's so good.
Great.
So let me just back up, because they kept calling him Yank. I just assumed he was an American. So he was born in Ireland, goes to America, lives most of his life there, or adolescence through, I don't know what. I guess he's supposed to be like 30 or something by the time he comes back. I guess 35, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's the Duke, and he's immediately recognizable, but it's a very young version of him. The movie is made in 1952, I believe. So, I mean, it's not the Rooster Cogburn Duke that I kind of grew up really watching. So it's a very young version of the Duke. And it's kind of a romantic comedy. It's a drama with that's more of a rom-com. And I didn't even know the Duke made rom-coms, but here it is.
That would have been that would have been a rom-com, exactly. For then, I guess. But I saw the movie, believe it or not, my senior year of high school. Our English teacher made us watch it because I forget what happened, what the lesson was, but they were talking about a dowry, and right. He's trying to explain what a dowry is and how, I guess, for people who don't know what a dowry is, it's that when a woman gets married, her family gives them like this big monetary gift, like they save all of her life for this transfer of money for taking her off their hands. Like, you can have our daughter. Here's a bunch of cash. Good luck. So that's basically what the whole movie's about. Is the Duke meets this woman, this smoking hot redhead. What's her name?
Maureen O'Hare.
Maureen O'Hare. Yeah.
And smoking hot.
Her brother doesn't want to give up. I guess they never talk about her parents. It's always like her brother the Duke's new brother-in-law is the villain, right? So the brother-in-law doesn't want to give up the dowry.
He's not a villain in the traditional sense. It's not like at the end of it you're hoping that the Duke, because you're used to the Duke wanting him to shoot the bad guy, and in this one it's his brother-in-law, and he's a character that the Duke has to deal with, but he's not necessarily a bad guy in his own way.
He's the antagonist, right?
Right.
I mean,
he's
the antagonist. Yeah. So that's the whole point of the movie, and it is she gets mad at John Wayne for not forcing her brother to give up the dowry, and John Wayne's like, I don't need the dowry. I don't even give a shit. Who cares? I just want to be married to you. I don't need the money. Who cares about the money? And just like a woman nagging you to death to like clean the gutters, this is her nagging him to go get that damn dowry. She's so mad, and that's the whole movie is they're bickering and fighting, and she wants.
It's the second. I'd say it's the second half of the movie, and it's the thing. It's the third act of the movie. Is they get the first act is he gets there. The second act is it's typical. It's old Hollywood. It's boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, and then it has this fourth thing that comes in. Boy has to fight girl's crazy giant of a brother for this 350 pounds that the Duke doesn't even want. So it's like this added little wrinkle thrown in there at the end. So
the whole movie is the lead up to the fight between John Wayne and the brother-in-law. That's the whole movie, and it's building, and
it's a shame that this young generation does. I mean, you can't really say, John Wayne and Victor McLaglen made a bunch of movies together. He was in She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. Anytime you needed this larger-than-life, giant Irishman character in all of those classic Hollywood films, dollars to donuts, it was Victor McLaglen that they got to play the part, because he was the quintessential. He was like a John Candy of Irishmen in those movies. He played that character. He had one character himself, and he played it in every movie he was ever in, and it was awesome. It was fantastic, that character. So
as you can imagine, it's a small town, so everybody knows everybody's business. So the whole town knows what's going on. They all know she's mad about the dowry, and John Wayne doesn't care about the dowry, and they're about to break up. And it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, the whole town knows the brother-in-law is this bully. Is it Danahy? No, wait. What's his character's name?
Danaher. Danaher is the name.
Danaher is the brother-in-law, right?
Yeah. Danaher.
The whole town looks at him as like a bully. The whole town is chomping at the bit because they can't stand the guy, and they're dying for John Wayne to kick his ass. They're just, and John Wayne don't want any part of it. He just like, nah. So the whole movie's building up to that, and obviously eventually it happens, and the whole town goes crazy, and everybody's there for the fight.
That's it.
And it's awesome. Yeah. The payoff is so worth it, because this whole movie, you're like, what is the big deal? They're going to fight. When are they going to fight? How long's that fight scene? Did you even time that out? Because it's probably one of the longest fight scenes in history.
Yeah, well, they take a break and have a drink in the middle of it. They go into a bar and have a drink right in the middle of this fight scene.
That's such a great scene. Such a great scene. So they're brawling through the whole town, and they come across this pub, which, by the way, when I was on YouTube, trying to look for behind-the-scenes stuff on the movie, some guy does a tour of that pub, which is so cool. But they're in front of the main pub in the area, and they take a break, and they go in to have a pint. And then they get into a fight about who's paying for the drinks.
Right. Yeah.
And then John Wayne's like this. John Wayne's like, they're actually complimenting each other on how well they can take a beating. And, so John Wayne tries to pay for the drinks. So the brother-in-law starts yelling at him. He's like, I'll have no Yankee buy me a drink. And he brushes his money off the bar, and he goes into his pocket and slams down money. So John Wayne brushes his money off the bar. And Danaher, or whatever his name is, throws the pint of Guinness into John Wayne's face. And what's so funny is when I was watching that scene again, I haven't seen the movie in years, I just remember John Wayne standing there with the beer running down his face, and I said his line before he did. He just goes, "Bar towel." The barkeep just throws him a towel. He wipes his face. He leans into the bartender. He's like, "What time you got there?" And he's like, "Oh, it's 1:30 something." And he goes, "Okay." And he just leans back and just cocks Danahy, whatever the hell his name is, right in the face. He falls out of the pub. They go back out onto the street, and it's round two.
And everybody's betting on the fight. Everybody's coming out. And they make a point to have these that the cops are like calling in, because it's like almost like they're calling in a riot. So they're calling for backup to this, I guess presumably this next larger town that's close by, and then so one cop is over the other cop's shoulder, and there's one cop on the phone, and you can't hear what's being said to him. And then when he gets off of the phone, the other cop goes, "Hey, so what are they doing?" He goes, "They said to put put 10 pounds on Danahy."
There's all these great little scenes like that, like the priests, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
You have an older priest and a younger priest. So the older priest is off fishing. He doesn't even know this fight's going on. So this younger priest sees the fight, and he's like, "Oh," he's trying to do the right thing. So he's like, "Oh my God, let me go get Father so-and-so." So he's running across the town, runs up to this pond where the older priest is fishing. And he's like, Father, he's like, "Thornton and Danahy are fighting." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Thornton and Danahy are fighting." And he goes, "Well, why the devil didn't you tell me?" And he like throws down his fishing rod, and he starts taking off to the fight.
Oh yeah.
So
and then the younger priest is like, "Well, should we stop him?" And he's like, "Aye, we should." And he's just sitting there like bobbing and weaving in the, like, oh, that's a good shot there. Yeah, no, we should. It's our duty. Yeah. And he's sitting there just watching the fight. It's great. It is a great, great, great movie. I loved it. So if we're going to talk about the movie, you got to talk about the director. And John Ford is, he in that age, he was the top of his game. Matter of fact, I did some interneting myself, and a big fan of John Ford is another well-known director, Steven Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
And Steven Spielberg, there's one of the opening scenes there's a scene where Maureen O'Hara goes in and she's cleaning this little cottage that she knows that John Wayne has bought. And but she doesn't want to be seen in there, so she goes and hides. And then John Wayne comes in and he sees that there's a fire in the hearth and that the floor's been kind of swept up. So he's looking for her and he can't find her. And he comes up with the idea that she must be hiding. So he slams the door to try to get her to come out, thinking that he's left, and he doesn't. So finally, he just grabs a hold of something and he screams like a banshee, and he throws it and breaks a window, and then she comes running out of the bedroom to get away. And when he does, he grabs a hold of her, and the wind's blowing through the door, and he just grabs her and he swings her back in this big gesture, and he just plants that big first kiss on her right there, right? That unsolicited first kiss. And then she slaps him, and then she gives him a kiss, and she leaves. Now that scene, I'm going to reference an old film, which references an even older film. So there's a scene in E.T., believe it or not, that Steven Spielberg directed, where Henry Thomas is in his classroom, and for whatever reason, E.T., I think the alien is getting drunk, and Henry Thomas, they're linked psychically somehow. So when the alien gets drunk and Henry Thomas gets drunk, they reenact that exact scene from A Quiet Man. And I'm
really
telling you, it's Steven Spielberg's homage to John Ford, because he was a big John Ford fan. So
I like when they do that.
Just a little nerdy Easter egg there for E.T. fans, which I don't know. You guys need to Google that now, I guess, if you got this younger demographic. You have to watch E.T. now after you watch The Quiet Man, so that way you get the damn reference. So,
all right, you want to get into your tobacco, and then I'll get into mine?
Sure. So going back to the Prince of Wales here that I'm smoking, it's a Peretti blend. You inspired me with the Peretti talk last time we were chatting. So I ordered a couple of 1 ounce samples from them, and I'm enjoying this one. It's Englishy. I know that you've kind of moved towards the Virginias, and but it's good. It's a nice flavor, and at the end of a day, when you're just trying to relax and process how something's happened, I find that smoking, it just, no matter how rough the day's been, smoking and a cup of tea just kind of, it makes it a pretty good day overall. So I would have to say that my assessment on this one, my palate's not as defined as yours. Some people can smoke these things and say, oh, I'm getting a whiff of chocolate and oak and blah, blah. I can't do that. I can tell the different tobaccos that's blended into it, and it works. It's enjoyable.
This is from Peretti's website. The Prince of Wales, a pleasantly mild English type tobacco with a fine, long-cut Virginia base. It has Latakia, Oriental tobaccos for flavor and smoothness, plus a touch of Irish tobacco. And there's your Irish connection. Boom. Nice. Yeah, the reason I kind of moved away from English right now is just because I'm since I'm getting into Virginia so much, the Latakia, most English blends for me, there's just too much Latakia. And I think years ago, Latakia was just a condiment tobacco. There'd be like a pinch of it. Mm-hmm. And you really wouldn't, and it would be more about the Virginia and probably about the Burley back then, mostly Burley blends. But like anything else, as time goes on, things change, and you just started seeing more and more and more Latakia added to blends where it just kind of drowns out everything else. So it's not that I'm anti-English blends right now. I'm still smoking them. This Perfection I'm smoking right now is an English blend. But I am on the hunt for a light English. There are times when I want an English blend. I just don't want to only taste a Latakia. So I might check that out. If you're saying it's light on the Latakia, as long as I could taste the Virginia a little bit and taste the Perique or taste some Burley, I want to be able to just not have this lat bomb. Like Cornell and Deal makes Pirate Cake and it's 75% Latakia. It's just too much for me right now. Anyway,
anytime I'm spoken in English, you're going to get bombarded with the Latakia. I think it just became the signature style for that type of tobacco, and it's kind of like I don't know, for the cooks out in the audience, the best way to describe it would be if you ever put like a green bell pepper in a sauce. If you put too much green bell pepper, that's all you can taste is green bell pepper. And for me, that's kind of what Latakia does to an English blended tobacco. I guess they want you to know you're smoking an English blend, so it became kind of the signature for it. But I'm not sure, obviously, but I know when I was going through my English phase, I couldn't get enough Latakia. Mm-hmm. And actually, when I look back on it and I think about it, I think it's because when you first start smoking, your palate is so new, I guess, to the whole thing that the delicate blends taste like nothing. Mm-hmm. You don't have a clue what the smoke's doing. So that's how I got hooked on pipe smoking to begin with, because I was coming from cigars. So anything light, I remember smoking a straight Virginia in the beginning. I was like, there's nothing here until I got the English blend. So it's almost like a slap you in the face. It's an obvious flavor that you can actually capture. You're like, oh, I got that. I could taste that. And I think as you keep smoking, and again, this isn't for all guys. There's plenty of guys who've been smoking for years and love a lot of Latakia, and that's fine. But guys that palates move around, I think that's what happens is you're able to start, getting a little distinctive with what's coming in. So what's funny is I was so into like Latakia blends and crazy, not crazy, but just like heavy Latakia English blends that an old standby, which everyone always talks about, and there's a million reviews on, is Peterson's Early Morning Pipe. It used to be Dunhill Early Morning Pipe, and I always thought about trying it, but at the time I had Dunhill's standard mixture and Dunhill's London mixture. So when I would watch reviews on Early Morning Pipe, they would say, well, it's lighter than standard mixture, and I would be thinking, well, I don't want anything lighter than this, because this is light enough. I need more. Well, now my palate
is coming full circle to where I want less of Latakia. So now I'm thinking after like 6 years, I'm like, I got to order some early morning pipe. Because if that's only has a splash of Latakia, I got to try it. Yeah. So it's funny how, I'm not anti-English blends at all. And there's times where I crave, a nice lap bomb, but mostly it's been, on the lighter side. So, I do want to try some. I'm looking for some lighter ones now. And it's funny because that's new to me. Looking for light English blends is new to me. I just haven't craved them in the past.
Well, all of the Peretti that like you said, you did a whole show on Peretti. And at the time, I was completely ignorant of it. But the sample pack that I got, I've been really enjoying it. And it's everything that I've had so far has been stellar. So I would, and this, add this to it if you want. It's supposed to kind of bridge the gap between an aromatic and an English is the way that it's kind of marketed as, and it's good. I've enjoyed it.
I'll check it out.
Back to the second tobacco that I smoked was the Winding Road, and it is more of it. I think that one right there is because it doesn't have the Latakia in it. It just has that good black Cavendish. Is what really is supplying the heavier flavors for me. That one is one that you can smoke almost all day, and you can eat your. I had that one after lunch today, as a matter of fact, and when I was rewatching, I put it on the Quiet Man while I was at my desk, and just let it play in the background, and I was able to enjoy it. I was able to work and watch that, and still be able to, get things accomplished using it while I was smoking my pipe. So, whereas for me, the English ones, I tend to want to sit and do what we're doing now. I want to talk to somebody if I'm smoking an English blend. I don't know why. I just want to have a conversation. So.
Ashton's Winding Road is a mellow mixture designed to bridge the gap between aromatic and English-style blends. Comprised of golden and dark brown Virginia with a sparkling black Cavendish. This excellent blend bears a natural fragrance accompanied by subtle notes of caramel and apricot. So it is classified as an aromatic. So it's Virginia Black Cavendish, so it's probably flavored Black Cavendish. Caramel and apricot, maybe?
Well, see, it says stuff like that, and man, maybe as I continue with my Bill Ball instructions, I may be able to get to a point where I can pick up that type of. But right now, I can pick the type of tobacco pretty easily, but the subtle little flavors that you get, unless it's just really coated, it's hard for me to tease those things out, to be honest with you. So if you're out there smoking and you're not getting all those flavors, don't feel bad. I've been doing this a long time and I still don't get them. So
yeah, well, there's plenty of tobacco where it's not like this in-your-face aromatic, which most I don't want to say most smokers don't want, but I always like the aromatics that are lightly topped or lightly, like you get the flavor on the finish, and you still get plenty of the tobacco flavor. And there's not this like chemical aftertaste. Like I smoked one of the guys on YouTube. His name's Mutton Chop Piper, and a lot of guys watched a ton of his videos when you first start out because he does a lot for beginners. And one of his favorite tobaccos was CAO's Eileen's Dream, which would have been perfect for this movie because it's got like the clover on it and it has more like a vanilla latte, coffee latte flavor on it. He made it sound so good. I got that, and to me, I could not smoke that. Like that was way too chemically, really, really flavored, really extra like artificially flavored, and it just wasn't for me. I like stuff that's more subtle. Even like the Edward G. Robinson, where like there's this subtle plum note, like that's plenty. something that'll take to just remind me of something, not just like I'm actually eating plums, or something like that. But this tobacco here's the description from smokingpipes.com. Samuel Gawith's Perfection pipe tobacco originated after a local pipe smoker couldn't procure his usual blend and asked Gawith to create one for him. His response, Perfection. Combining Virginia's Orientals and Latakia, Perfection is a classic English mixture elevated by a touch of vanilla to enhance the Virginia's natural sweetness alongside the Latakia's smoky notes. The cut is a ribbon. It kind of looks just like Squadron Leader. And when you dump it out, you can see a good amount of black Latakia flakes and brown color Virginia in here. And maybe some lighter leaf. Could be a little bit, some bright, I guess it could be. Or maybe that could be the Turkish. So you have like a brown, you have a light brown, and a lot of black specks in here for a Latakia. It's not that much different to me than Samuel Gawith's Squadron Leader. So if you had Squadron Leader, it's similar in my opinion. And the differences would be this has a little bit more Latakia. Samuel Gawith is a light English as far as Latakia goes. But
my friend Mark,
that blend's so different from any other English blend I've ever smoked. And I have a feeling I don't know, in my mind, it's because it's where it's from. Like if you look on a map where it's from, like it has this briny, salty flavor. And it's almost like because it's near, I imagine maybe the fields are near the sea. And you could picture like the salt air around the fields literally salting this tobacco. It's amazing how much I taste of that in Squadron Leader and in this. A little bit less in this than Squadron Leader. Squadron Leader is really briny. This is a little less of that and a little bit more Latakia. And it says that it has this vanilla top note, but my tin was from 2021 and I don't taste vanilla at all. So I imagine it just kind of evaporated.
Could you smell it when you opened it up?
Yeah, I got it right here. I'll take a whiff for you, Jay.
Does it, can you smell the vanilla even?
Let me see. Maybe a little bit.
Here's a question for the people out there in podcast land. Do top coats and dressings and stuff like that, do they evaporate over time? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, they do. You'll see blenders talk about that. Like Jeremy Reeves is the head blender at Cornell and Deal, and you'll see videos of him talking. They're not sure how certain aromatics will hold up over time. The thought process is like we like to age tobacco, right? We always say aging's better, except for aromatics, because you really don't want that flavor to minimize later. Where everything else, all the straight tobaccos, you're trying to get them to marry more, you're trying to get them to age more, maybe release some sugar crystals. But aromatics, in my opinion, English blends too. Like if you like heavy Latakia blends, I think you're better off smoking them right away, because I think that's when, and this is just my opinion, but I think that's when the Latakia is at its strongest. So if you like that in-your-face lap bomb, I wouldn't buy English blends to sit on unless you're doing it for like monetary reasons, which I get. You never know what the hell the FDA is going to do and how readily available everything's going to be. God forbid, but like I get it for that. But like I wouldn't be storing a ton of English blends. But unless you like that, unless you want them to mellow out, maybe and marry more. But when guys say, well, this is really well blended, and this is really all the rough edges are gone. Honestly, I like the edges. I like it not being as blended because I like to sit there and pick out, oh, there's the Virginia, there's the Turkish, there's a lot of Kia, and I like to go around and around. And it sometimes, if it's too well-rounded, it tastes like one note the whole time. I'm just like, it's good.
Right.
But there's, it just kind of leaves you with nothing to guess. You know what I mean?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, when it comes to just the amount of tobacco that I've got in my house now, since I've kind of started, I used to have just one type and it would stay there forever, and now I've probably got enough. At 3 pinches per bowl. Good Lord, man! You figure how much of, how long is it going to take you to go through all of that? So for me, cellaring is more. It's more storing properly as opposed to letting it age. I need to figure out, the best way to store this because I want it to last. I don't want it to dry out and to go bad, things like that. So for me, storing it is back to that frugality. I think we talked about that a couple episodes ago. I just don't like to waste anything. So, hey, speaking of that, you kind of inspired me, our last conversation about creating, I think I had mentioned the strong cheese last time we talked about using the little pieces of the from the cheese tray left over and making it into a spread. Well, I did that, except I did it with tobacco. I took all of the tobacco that I had that I thought was dried out, little fragments and stuff, and I put it into a big Franken bowl, and then I read it like, how do I rehydrate tobacco properly? And I think I looked at a video that was done by the one of the master blenders. I think you said it earlier. I think you said his name earlier, Cordell and Dill's master blender.
Jeremy Reeves.
I think I watched one of his things, and he had a little bit of I can't remember that. I think he used rum and a little bit of distilled water, and then he rehydrated a pack of this loose tobacco that he had in there. And I said, well, I didn't have any rum, so I used bourbon, and I used a little bit of bourbon and about a tablespoon of water. And then I did the same thing, and I've got this jar of it, and it's just my house blended tobacco, and I smoked it, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. So don't be afraid to experiment. Like you said that you were kind of making a house blend last time we talked, and you inspired me to do the same. So
yeah, this hobby's fun, man. There's really no rules,
Yeah.
You could do whatever you want with it, but I was blending just like a Virginia and Perique and Cavendish. But I've tried early on. I had a jar, and just a big empty jar that I would put, like when I would get down to the end of tins, I would just throw them in this jar. And for me, it didn't work because you just had you had English blends, you had vapors. Now I get it. In an English blend, there's Virginias, right? And in a vapor, there's Virginias, but with Perique. So they all technically should and have lived in other blends. But for me, I was just like, every time I tried to do that, I was always like, man, I got so much good tobacco open. Why am I doing this?
Why am I clinging?
You know what I mean? Maybe for fun, but to me that I stopped that. But getting back to hydrating tobacco, you know what I've learned over the last few years is I like my tobacco on the dry side. So I rarely try to hydrate. I actually wind up drying it out even more. Yeah. And I like to rub it out if it's not. I like ribbon cut. I love flakes for Virginias, man. I rub them out. And I rub them way out. A lot of guys will do like a fold and stuff. I'm not a big fan of that. But to each his own. And for me, I'll rub it out. I will put it, fold it up in my palms and squeeze my palms hard and rub it out and then pick it up and rub it out again. I almost like it. I almost try to get it almost like to a shag. And I like it dry. And for me, I'm a slow smoker anyway, so I don't have a problem with cadence. Plus, I typically smoke with a filter, so there's always an extra snug draw.
Yeah.
So I like it dry because I just like it. It just burns easier for me, and I don't overpack. You had joked around about the 3-pinch method with packing your pipe. I did that in the beginning. I don't do that anymore because I feel like it's just too much tobacco. It's too packed. I do a loose pack. I just like pour it in, tap it, lightly tamp, pick up another pinch, put it in, and just try to work it down with my thumbs. And it's nice and spongy. And I just do a light tap on, like light tamp on the top, and then put my palm, the pad of my thumb on top, and just give it a turn. And I keep it loose because I don't want to feel like I'm drinking a milkshake. I like that. I like the air to come through. That's why I like smoking codger blends like that. That's why I like Prince Albert, because it's just going to burn, and I'm going to get. You know what I mean? I'm not going. Yeah. It's not an effort to get it to burn and smoke.
Right. For me, when I fill it up, if I tip the bowl upside down, and a lot of it comes out, then that's too dry. So and then usually I hadn't really thought about rehydrating before myself, and so if it got too dry in the past, if I thought it was too dry, I just threw it out. And and now with my house jar that you inspired and then disavowed, that's what I'm doing with it. As I'm putting it in there and I'm shaking it up, and it stays relatively moist. And if you pick it up and you go to squeeze it and it falls completely apart immediately, I think that's too dry for my taste. But that's the beauty of this hobby.
No, that's a good test.
Different smokers do it different ways. So, well, can we go back to the movie real quick? Because there's one you mentioned. We touched on him a little bit earlier, but there's this character Michelin. And Michelin, he does double duty in the film. He plays the little cab driver that's getting the Duke to and from the train station, but he also plays another character called the matchmaker. And the matchmaker is apparently this Irish tradition of how people would go about the very formal way of courting one another. And his character just steals the show because he's always getting liquored up and he's always getting snockered. And there's this one scene where the Duke and Maureen O'Hara give him the slip and they disappear on this tandem bicycle. So he's kind of chasing after him. He's chasing after him with his horse. And this horse comes, as soon as this horse comes to the pub, the horse stops immediately and he almost like flies over the front of it. And then he looks back and the horse is looking at the pub and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're right to take me here. That's where we're usually going." Then he gets off and he just goes into the pub. But the
horse is smarter than me, or something like that.
The horse immediately slams on the brakes as soon as he gets in front of the pub. So he goes in and drinks it. And then at the wedding, another little Easter egg. Michelin's character is there's a scene at the wedding. So the Duke has finally gotten permission. He's finally gotten to marry Maureen O'Hara, and they're singing this song at the piano. And a lady comes around with champagne glasses, and he hands one to Michelin, and Michelin immediately like, "Oh yeah, it's because it's drink," and he wants to drink everything that he can get. So he takes the champagne, he takes a big gulp of it, and he immediately just spits it out like what is this? And then the guy hands him a Guinness, and it's not even a part of the film because they don't even break in the song at all. It's just one of those little things that you get to see it. And for me, there's stuff that you see in a film that is planned, and then there's stuff that just comes out in the process. I don't know how many takes they made. I don't know how it worked, but for me, that was just one of the best moments in the whole movie because it's just so, you don't write that in a script. It's just something that they did. So, and incredible. So,
yeah, there's so many great little scenes like that, Jay. And one that I laughed at was there's a scene during the fight scene, they're like showing you around the town and stuff, and there's this older guy, and he's on his deathbed, and he's got people around his bed, and they're like reading his life highlights, or I forget what they're exactly reading to him, and he's got like a toothpick in his mouth, and he's listening to the story, and whatever the guy said when he was reading, the guy dying in bed like takes out the toothpick and gives this look like, "Oh yeah, that was a great time back then," and like puts the toothpick back in his mouth. And then they overhear that the fight's going on, and the dude like springs back to life, like jumps out of bed and sprinting down the street in like a gown, with no socks and shoes on to go see this fight before he dies.
Right, absolutely. It's like, I'm not going to be dying today, and it runs out there and to see the fight. So prior to the fight taking place too, because we're jumping around, so when you watch the movie, you'll see all the scenes that we're talking about, but you'll see it in the correct order. So I don't feel like we're ruining the movie for you by any stretch of the imagination. But there's a scene where the Duke has to bring Maureen O'Hara back. She's kind of forced his hand, and he's going to have to confront the brother-in-law. And as he's walking her back to town, he's kind of dragging her. There's this lady who was in the very front of the film. She shows up at the end, and she has this stick, and she shows up and she tries to give John Wayne this stick, and he goes, "Well, here's a stick if you needed to beat the lovely lady with."
Yeah. Here's a switch. Here's a switch if she's getting out of line. By the way, that character on the horse and buggy, the funny little guy, we forgot to mention that he was also a pipe smoker. The guy had a nice pipe, a nice billiard with a little tobacco pouch that he would always dip in throughout the whole movie. So there's a pipe connection.
Right.
Jay, before we wrap up the show, I just want to say thank you to the guys who have been filling out the feedback. I've been getting great feedback, and it's awesome, man. I love it because there's encouragement there. You guys get what I'm trying to do. Talk about tobacco. I know today we went a little long with the Quiet Man movie, but we really just want to talk about blends here, and I really appreciate you guys letting me know your thoughts. So thanks again. The link's still in there, and anytime you want to write me something, go ahead. My email address is in there. I'll respond if you email, or if you leave your email in the form for the feedback, I'll shoot you an email back. It's much appreciated. The numbers are growing. The show's growing pretty good. I already have more downloads per episode than I thought I would have. But if you know any pipe smokers out there that might enjoy it, please send it to them, because I would love to keep this going. Maybe even create some kind of online chat, or maybe do a live stream one day, and we'll all smoke a pipe together maybe once a month. Maybe we could do something like that. What do you think about that, Jay?
Absolutely. Count me in. Take 2 seconds to talk me into that, Bill.
Yeah, that was a tough sale for Jay. Will you bring your Academy Award if we do a live stream so you can show the people what Cop Number 7 won?
Yeah, I do have an award. It's not an Academy Award.
Is it a Peabody?
No, it's a Monty. And
a Monty?
Yeah, you have.
Is that a stage thing?
No, yes, actually it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I could see that.
Yeah, I'll show it. Our first simulcast, I'll bring it to it.
Simulcast. I love your old man terms. You come up with the crazy. Our first closed caption appearance. You fucking old. You're like 2 years older than me, but you sound 20. How do you do that?
Man, I think it's. If I had to put my finger on it, I spent a lot of time with my grandfather when I was a kid. What your son was just doing, running in there to you, I was doing to my grandfather now. And except he would be watching, he'd be watching baseball or something, and then he'd just put me on his lap and we'd just watch baseball together. And then eat sardines. So it's like, man, I'm like,
that's some old man shit.
Yeah, exactly.
At like 5 years old,
I didn't stand a chance, man. I didn't.
Well, listen, man, we're all old souls. If we're smoking a pipe, we all are old souls, and I think that's what kind of brings us all together. We all kind of get it, So that's really cool. But we'll go ahead and sign off here. I hope we talked about tobacco a little bit in this episode. Try to clean it up for you a little bit, but. Thanks again, guys. And Jay, thank you, buddy. And you'll be stopping back soon.
Always a pleasure.